Hello, hello, hello. Is everybody here? I'm trusting that everybody is coming on, and I'm super excited that we're here today. It's like I want to give a woohoo. Welcome to the Godly Parenting Summit 2024. And I am so stoked to be here. So look, I'm going to start by introducing myself. My name is Efe Ogundawole, and I'm your moderator for today. I'm also a very strong believer in this community. I'm happy to have been a speaker last year, and this year we're here with so much more awesomeness. So I'm calling in from Accra, Ghana. It's the bright and sunny afternoon. I'm not sure where everybody is, but I know we have worldwide community members. So I'm hoping everybody is up and about here in front of your screens. And can you just let us know where you're calling in from today? Just type it into your chat box. Let's know where you're calling in from, whatever part of the world you are in. It might be a good morning or a good evening, while it's a good afternoon for me over here. So yes, a little about me. I'm a life and wellness coach with a degree in business administration. But what's most important for me, I tell people, is that in all the things I've done, all the industries I've worked in, and everywhere I've been, is impacting people. As they say, people might not remember what you tell them, but they always remember how you make them feel and what you've left them with. So apart from I'm working in customer service and also banking and telecommunications, and now coaching people and training, I also work as a catechist teaching young children the faith at my local parish. And there's just so much more, but today really it's not about me. We're here to start our summit. We're here to share and tell you about the awesomeness that's going to happen for the next 6 weeks. And today, we're talking about the foundations of strong family. It's a part 1. I'm excited because today we're starting with the daddy. We're not starting with the mommy today. We're starting with the man. We've got the men who coming in today to come and share wisdom with us. And I hope everybody has dragged in somebody with them as well. Before going further, the first thing we want to do to start off our summit is to share a prayer together as a community, a prayer that covers and encompasses us all. So if you're wherever you are, wherever you're sitting, if you can see our prayer, you can join us in saying it. It's just a form of meditation to get you into what we're going to do so that our hearts are here with us as well. So join me now. You can close your eyes if you want to. You can hold hands if you're with your partner. Just be present with us and take these 2 minutes to meditate. As we gather for this Godly Parenting Summit, we come before you as a community, seeking your guidance and wisdom. We ask that you take control of all our conversations, that they may be filled with grace, understanding, and love. Thank you for the gift of wisdom, knowledge, and discernment. As we learn, unlearn, and relearn how to be the best parents we can be. Help us to apply the principles and values that align with your teachings, that we may raise our children to be lights in the world, shining with your love and truth. We pray that all things will work together for the good of everyone here, that our time together will be fruitful and productive. We also pray that the work that has gone into the delivery of this summit will end in resounding success for your glory and honor. May our conversations and our time together be a blessing to all who attend. Thank you, Lord. Yes, thank you. I hope we all got a feel of that prayer, and we can always put that in somewhere in our prayer and our journals to use as we go along. Now, before I go further, the reason why we're here today, the wonderful person who's put all this, who's the visionary behind the summit, the visionary behind the community, a very dear friend of mine. We've known each other for a very long time, and I'm glad that she's carried me along with this. So I'm going to give us a minute to meet our convener, who's going to come and tell us a little bit about the summit right after we meet her, Mrs. Ifeanyi Okafor. Here we go.
Introducing Ifeanyi Okafor, the convener. Ify is a parenting and wholeness coach and has worked as an IT professional for over 16 years. She is a wife and mom to 4 lovely children. Ifeyinwa is the data center infrastructure manager at the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission (NUPRC), where she builds, integrates, and manages platforms and solutions, coordinates IT service delivery teams, and manages project timelines, teams, and stakeholders effectively and efficiently. She has led various organizational-wide IT projects and worked with different project teams delivering notable industry projects. She is also a strategist at the Wholeness School USA, founder of the Wholesome Parenting School, co-founder of the Digital Parenting School, and convener of the annual Godly Parenting Summit. Through her platforms, she has guided over 150 clients as a wholeness coach and helped them to rediscover their dreams, develop new skills, and rewire their mindsets so they can live fully alive. She has also empowered about 100 parents with skill and support so they can confidently parent their children in the digital space. To impact the world on a larger scale, Ife started the annual Godly Parenting Summit last year.
Okay. So Ife is here, and I think she's ready to tell us a little bit. Ife, I was reading all those things. I was like, are you sure this is all this? I know there's a lot more. This one wonder superwoman we have here. Over to you.
Hi, Efe. Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm seeing all the locations in the YouTube chat, and I am so humbled. Efe, is that all? Well, that's my little secret. This is all we're declaring for today.
Exactly.
Yes. So what exactly is Godly Parenting Summit? I'm waiting for my slides to come up, but this is my baby, so I can talk about it for the rest of the day. Godly Parenting Summit is a summit of parents, for parents, by parents, and it happens once every year. But then again, before I go into Godly Parenting Summit and what it's all about, let me speak a little as to how I got to this point. I'm actually an IT manager by profession, but I haven't worked about 15 years. I got this inspiration, the zeal to be able to want to do more. I think COVID for me was an opportunity to really take a look back at everything I'd done in my life and see how it was impacting on a larger scale. And I decided I had room for more. And God was able to, feed my yearning by giving me this thing to be able to talk to parents and to be able to work with them. And I thought it was just going to be a parent coaching adventure. But he said, I'm not done. We're going to do something that's going to impact the whole world, and you're going to keep it free. And that's how we birthed Godly Parenting Summit. So it's here to help parents to learn, to unlearn, and to relearn, everything that you need to know about parenting, to be able to, sensitize them, educate them, empower us, rather, because I'm also a parent, so that we're able to walk with God in our parenting journey every single day, in every moment, in every occasion. This is not just when I'm in crisis, I remember God. It's a question of, having God every time with you. And we do this through this summit, which happens at the end of April, the last Saturday in April, which is today, and culminates on the first Saturday in June. And by the way, June 1st is the World Parents Day. And so that's why we try to time it to end within that week. So we have the summit, and then we have the parenting community, which is a WhatsApp community. For those who are interested, who haven't joined that community, when you check our chats on YouTube and in Zoom for the VIP guests, you'll get a link that would allow you fill the registration form to join our parenting community. This year, our theme is family, the building block of society, because we recognize the fact that no matter what kind of society you want to build, you have to start from the family unit. Some of us are concerned with the direction the world at large is going, and we're trying to do something about that. And to do that, we need to go back to the family. We need to go back to families where we have community, where we have wholesomeness, where we have godliness. And that is what this year's summit is speaking to. To reach a wider audience, we took it away from, well, we included YouTube so that no matter where you are, you're able to have a better streaming experience. We know that Zoom sometimes has limitations, and so we've retained Zoom for our VIP clients so that they have a closer reach. And we've also introduced something called a VIP package. You've heard me refer to it once or twice. What we did, and this was from feedback and from conversations with people who participated in last year's event. If you want to have a closer, more up close experience with the speakers, with the coaches, with the moderators, then you have to be in the VIP. If you want to also have a lifetime replay of this conference, then you have to also do that, because 2 weeks out, every session will air on YouTube for just 2 weeks. 2 weeks because we want to have maximum coverage. We want as many people to hear this message. But after 2 weeks, we will take it off YouTube and it will now be a paid service. So if you want to have lifetime access, then you want to be a VIP member. Else, you would have to purchase it from our platform, which we will share later. Then you also have one-on-one access with the coaches and the speakers. And when I say speakers, I mean this year's speakers as well as last year's speakers in a closed WhatsApp group for the duration of the conference, as well as a 50% discount voucher for the 2023 bundle. So if you want to have the 2023 bundle, it's up for sale on our page on Seller. But if you're a VIP member, you would have received a voucher giving you 50% off. So that's what GPS is. And I like the acronym. I mean, GPS. We all know GPS to be that thing that helps you navigate your way when you're trying to go somewhere. Well, GPS is going to also help you navigate your parenting journey in a very godly manner. FA, back to you.
Thank you, Ify. I always love the energy and the vibes that comes when you're talking about this baby, because you can tell that, you're ready to take it to places we haven't fathomed. Thank you so much. I see people calling in from Canada, from Portugal. Our Nigerians are here, and I know there's so many more people. There's also our speaker who's in London. So there's a lot happening here today, and it's exciting to see. And I see my speaker of the day looking very excited and ready to come on. So today, as I mentioned earlier, the topic for today is the foundations of a strong family, and it's a father's nurturing mandate. And we have with us a very seasoned and very experienced daddy in the house. He's called Mr. Chiro Kandia. And you're going to hear a little bit of an introduction before he comes on to give us his talk for the day.
Introducing Chiro Kandia. Chiro Kandia is an educational consultant designing a life coaching program for teenagers.
For 25 years, he led Oakwood School in Greater London as the headmaster. In 2022, he founded ProParent to support parents in building strong families through Christian values, serving over 500 people across the UK and Ireland.
Chiro's work includes presenting a weekly radio show on Radio Maria, England.
You can find his ProParent podcasts on Spotify. He is married to his lovely wife, Caroline. He is father to 7 children.
Please welcome Chiro Kandia.
So I think it's time for me to leave the floor for you. Chiro, you're very welcome to today's summit, and we can't wait to hear your wisdom. So you have the floor.
Thank you very much indeed, Efe and Ify, for inviting me. I'm delighted to be part of this fantastic initiative. Godly Parenting Summit. And I can see that it's making a real difference, and it has made a real difference in the lives of families. And just like the work that I do, equipping parents with the tools and support they need to raise their children to be people of great faith and character. So well done to you as participants for joining this wonderful initiative over the next 6 weeks. I'm sure it's going to bring many benefits for your family. So let's get started. So if we can move on to the next slide, please. So picture this scene. A young man gets married, and in time, he and his wife announce the wonderful news that the first child is on the way. Now, the young man knows that some sacrifices will have to be made. You know, even after he got married, he was starting to cut back a little. His trips to the pub, to the bar were less frequent, and he even reduced some of his gym commitments. So the young man figures, well, when the baby arrives, I know that I'm going to have to make a few adjustments, but with some clever timetabling, because men are very good at problem solving, you know, I should be able to continue with many of my old pastimes in some way. You know, in short, this young man is thinking, well, you know, my future child is going to be manageable. You know, I can work this out. You know, the possibility that there might be a complete and utter disruption to his former life is something that never really enters his mind. Indeed, and please don't take this the wrong way, chaps, really, but from experience, I've noticed that many young fathers-to-be suppose that somehow their old ego-centered lives will somehow be able to continue more or less in some unabated way after the first child arrives. And for many, nothing really prepares them for this onslaught that's about to hit them. It's only once their first child arrives that this young man begins to wonder whether his wife and children are literally and perhaps even intentionally trying to kill his old self. Yeah. And, you know, all around him, he sees everything changing without any signs of ever reverting back to the way things used to be. And into this indefinite future, nearly every hour of his day threatens to be filled with activities that, as a single person or even as a childless husband, he would never have chosen for himself. And, you know, due to the continual interruptions of sleep, you know, he's always mildly fatigued. Due to the long-term financial concerns, he's cautious about spending money, forsaking. He finds his wife equally have started to slip away, and traveling with his children is like traveling third class in Bulgaria. I mean, nothing against Bulgaria, by the way. If there's anybody here from Bulgaria, they're very welcome. But anyway, the changes go on and on. And in short, he discovers in a terrifying realization what Dostoevsky proclaimed long ago, that active love is a harsh and fearful reality compared with the love of dreams. You know, fatherhood, it's just not what he bargained for, this young man. It's just not what he thought it was going to be about. And if that wasn't bad enough, you know, he's confronted with this new enlightened cultural voice that asserts that fatherhood is only incidentally related to biology, and that, you know, those traditional parental functions that, you know, can be pretty much fulfilled by a whole patchwork of surrogates. You know, all the functions of a father, providing affection, protection, financial support, spiritual leadership, you know, all these things, they can be, it doesn't have to be him. That doesn't really need, you know, we don't need fathers. You know, we can raise children without them, without you. And the upshot for this young man facing this uncertain future is often to flee, to kind of run away. This strong individualism, the mourning, mourning the loss of his previous life, and the feeling that he could easily be replaced by anybody in society. This leaves him with little reason to stick around, and the outcome is catastrophic. Now, in the West, in particular, I'm thinking of countries, at least where I have more direct experience of in the UK and in Europe. Children are now more likely to have a smartphone than a father at home. Studies are increasingly highlighting the absolute devastation that a lack of paternity is wreaking on children and on society generally. Children need father figures. They need father figures. Fatherless children have rates of imprisonment, criminal activity, poverty, drug and alcohol abuse, teenage pregnancy, alarmingly higher than their two parent counterparts. And together with the staggering divorce rate and the move in the West towards alternative lifestyles, permanent bachelorhood and cohabitation and so on, people are understandably wondering whether this is, we're witnessing the end of the family. It's a real concern. Okay, next slide, please. But fatherhood matters. It matters. You may have come across a survey conducted in Switzerland some years ago, which really interestingly revealed that if both parents took their children to church, so attending mass, for example, on a Sunday, that there was a 60% likelihood that their children would remain in the faith. So 60%. If only the father, dad, took his kids to church, it was still over just 60% of children keeping their faith. And if mum was the only one taking the children to mass, that figure dropped to just 30% of children keeping their faith. So just to kind of understand that both parents going to mass, 60% roughly chance of those children keeping their faith. If the father, only the father, not much difference, 60%. Just the mother drops down to 30%. And I always found that statistic absolutely astounding, because just dads taking their kids to mass had more or less an equal impact to both parents taking them to mass. And that feels a little bit counterintuitive. But I'm not. It's a good thing, really. But what it does do, this piece of survey, very interesting piece of work, it shows how important it is for both girls and boys that their father plays a part in their religious upbringing. It's as if God is almost saying, hey guys, step up. When it comes to leading your family spiritually, you're my representative. I'm working through you. I'm counting on you, in effect, is what God is saying, I think, in the role of the father. So my first advice this afternoon is chaps, dads, take up your mission to lead your family spiritually. Take that seriously. And, often when I give these talks, it can be quite shocking to hear from me almost right at the beginning is, to take on that spiritual leadership. Pray and fast for your children, for your wives also, but pray and fast. Are we giving up, as well as praying every day, a small mortification every day, something very small, maybe denying ourselves some of the things that we like at dinner occasionally, or maybe just having a little bit less drink when we go out with our friends, or whatever it might be, maybe waking up on time punctually, getting to bed on time, whatever little sacrifice, but a little mortification for our children. Do we offer that up daily? We lead our children in the religious practices at home. morning prayer, the rosary. Oh, I've got Guchiro speak up a little louder. Right. I'm not sure I can speak up much louder. But I'll keep going. And rest assured that your sacrifices will bear much fruit. Yeah, much fruit. And not just spiritual ones as well. A survey a few years ago of thousands of US teenagers revealed that religiously active teenagers, so if we can pass on our faith to these children, religiously active teenagers were less likely unhealthy sexual activity, or waste time on mindless media consumption. Those children, those teenagers who had a religious kind of upbringing, because religion provided these teenagers with a sense of purpose, a sense of hope, guidance in making good decisions, really, and support during difficult times. St. John Paul II was asked once about his father. And St. John Paul II said, yes, he was a very tough father. And then he added, he was tough on himself. He was tough on himself, but merciful with everybody else. Tough on himself, but merciful with everybody else. This is the mark of a true gentleman. Yeah. And the father of St. John Paul II did so much to pass on that Catholic faith to his son. And what an incredible outcome was achieved. Let's follow the example of John Paul II's father. So fatherhood matters, and through the exhaustion, the financial stress, the general chaos that enters in at times, we need to do all we can to help fathers, to help dads, and this is what I do in my work alongside helping families generally, to enter into this mystery of the divine vocation of fatherhood. It's a vocation that's been given to them by God. That's what I mean. That obviously we're human beings, we're not divine, but it's a vocation that's been handed down to us by God. And deep contentment can be had when men embrace their fatherhood. Fatherhood not based on the pleasure of amusement or playing football or rugby with schoolmates, but rather on the honor and nobility of sacrifice and commitment, like that felt of a soldier. This is what we're called to. And if men are faithful to their calling to be dads, they might come to find that against nearly all their prior expectations, they never want to return to the way things used to be. So with all this in mind, as a kind of general introduction, let's consider this vocation of fatherhood more carefully and what qualities one must have in order to be a good dad. So next slide, please. First of all, we need to make time. We need to make time for our families. We need to make time for our kids. Do we make time? Time, full stop. And over the years, I was a head teacher for 25 years. Sometimes dads would come up to me and say, oh, it's all about quality time. No, it's not about quality time. We need to spend time with them, full stop. Call it quantity time. Just being with them, whatever the activity, rest, play, chores around the house, helping them with their homework, whatever it is. And in our busy world, it's important to remember, as I say, that quantity time is just as important as quality time. And you know how many children, or how children spell the word love? The word love is not spelt L-O-V-E. I mean, of course it is from a literary perspective, but children, they spell love as in a different way. They spell it T-I-M-E. That's how they spell love. T-I-M-E. You may recall from Sully, and this was about Captain Chesley Sullenberger's crash landing a US Airbus on the Hudson River. And because of his skill, the captain's skill, there were no fatalities. that day, and yet the passengers who were on the plane didn't know that they were going to escape death as they took that brace position on that icy winter's morning. And because they didn't know what the outcome was going to be, they didn't see the end of the film. They didn't know that they were going to survive. They did what people in that situation do. They used what little time they had left, very little time, to tell those people closest to them how much they love them. You know, one woman tells a story of how she, you know, kind of picked up her phone and rang her family and said, "I love you." That's what she did. Right? That's what she did because the passengers believed, you know, with all their heart, their time, T-I-M-E, was limited. You know, perhaps in this case, just a few minutes. And in those circumstances, they had to decide what to do with their time. You know, they had to ask themselves, well, what are my priorities right now? Now, they could have chosen to, I don't know, ring their clients on their phone, you know, their customers, you know, phone the garage about the new car and say, look, you know, I've only got a few minutes left, but, you know, could you please put on, you know, could you please put on extra, you know, kind of feature to my new car, please? Or maybe phoning a colleague and saying, you know, we've got this presentation tomorrow morning. Can you please adapt the slides or whatever? You know, I'm going to bet that nobody on that plane that morning made that kind of call, really. Why? Because they did what men and women, as I say, the world over do in this situation when they know that time is short. They choose to give their time to their loved ones. That's what they choose to do. And our time is limited, you know, but we don't realize it because life goes by day after day. And because there's always the sense of tomorrow, the problem never seems critical. You know, apparently in the average life, we spend 6 months waiting for the traffic lights to change, 23 years asleep, although from, you know, the personal experience of having had 7 teenagers at one point, I think it's more like 43 years, but anyway. 2 years looking for things that we've lost, apparently. But by the time we've had a nap and looked for our car keys and waited for the green lights to change, there isn't much time to do anything else. Yeah. And in relation to our fatherhood, to fathers, these considerations should encourage us to think that this promise of a slower day when maybe only after the phone stops ringing, you know, am I going to have time to play with my kids or to help them with their homework or to do a job around the house with them or whatever it might be. Yeah. No, you know, often we create busyness really from within. You know, we think that the world can't function without us. I gave a talk a couple of nights ago, and this father was saying to me, "But you don't understand my work. You know, I'm, you know, I'm on call 24 hours a day, and this, that, and the other. The world will not stop spinning on its axis if we stop and take time for our families." You know, surprisingly, you know, in our workplace, that company, that business is not going to collapse because we've given time to our families. Yeah. So remember, prioritize your time. Next slide, please. Next, I'd like to discuss the important role that fathers play in helping their wives establish a school of virtue at home, where parents guide children towards becoming you know, outstanding young men and women who lead their lives by noble Christian principles. You know, people of character, people of virtue, people of hope, charity, temperance, justitude, fortitude, etc. This is what I mean by a school of virtue. And this is not something that, you know, just the mothers have the responsibility to do. No, you know, as well as that spiritual leadership, we as fathers need to be there supporting our wives, working with our honest that raising children in a Christian way, especially in this day and age, is incredibly challenging. You know, parents are under this pressure to get it right, you know, worried about social media, pornography, you know, constantly doubting themselves. But God, who is stronger than society, has ordained that parents will always have an influence over their children for the good. So, for this influence to be effective, dads need to lead by their own personal example, as I've mentioned already, in matters of faith and so on. But they need to show, in developing this school of virtue at home, that that their way of life, our way of life, is joyful and attractive. Our children need to see us living these Christian values, and that they bring us happiness in the first instance. They shouldn't see cranky dads exhausted by life, but fathers who embody cheerfulness and positivity. They need to see that following these Christian values, that dad coming home after work, smiling, not defeated, that and that he's living these virtues day after day, year after year. That this may seem like a heroic ask, but it's vital, absolutely vital. Our children move in a culture constantly promoting distorted ideals, and they need our homes to be counterpoints to that influence. Places that celebrate beauty and goodness, and then through and truth. Through the books that we read, the movies that we watch, the places we visit, the places we go on holiday to. And the father has a huge role in teaching virtue in this way, by controlling that media, by encouraging some of these virtues activities, in protecting the moral environment of the home, ensuring influences from the media and from outside are appropriately filtered. Really, in the past, fathers they were responsible for the physical protection of the family. Right? So they were the ones who had the weapon just in case anybody was going to attack the home. Right now we subcontract that to the police and to third parties, really. But more importantly now is the moral protection of our families. This is what we need to really focus on. And this involves talking to our children about deep things, giving our children as they grow up, and especially in the teenage years, loving advice, spending time with them. I mean, I always say to parents, especially once your child gets into their teens, once a week, mothers and fathers, but particularly fathers, need to spend at least once a week and have a deep conversation with them about things that are going on in the media, in the world, about their studies. And if it means taking them out, for a drink, for a Coke, going for a walk in a wood, going to the beach, whatever, but once a week making time. Because as a Roman teacher wisely said, a young man must be overcome by reason, not by force. Yeah. This isn't about winning arguments with our children, but about fostering critical thinking within our children. They need to hear, they need to engage with that outside world, and it's often through the father figure that this engagement with the outside world takes place, so that they grow up being able to develop good thinking skills, really, and understanding their learning from the consequences of their choices in life. So lots of as I said, lots of ways of doing this, but regular conversations. This is for another talk, but for today, regular conversations with your children is essential, at least once a week. Because if your children haven't properly and truly internalized those values, those virtues, they're going to lack the foundation to resist all the negative influences that they're going to encounter in the world. So a father can do a great deal to help his children think critically. Next slide, please. And when it comes to being a good dad, there's one word that matters more than anything else, and this is relationship, really. And the key to relationships in our families is to love those around us unconditionally. We need to pass this on to our children. As we know only too well, men love differently than women. The male tendency is often to link success with respect and even love. Think back chaps, to your time at school. Maybe just like me, you were dressed in those short trousers. Perhaps your mother has a photograph of you on the top of the sideboard somewhere when you were 10 years of age. And imagine you were standing in the playground, two boys leaning against a wall, gazing at a large group of children, and their eyes were searching, assessing, because they were picking the football teams, right? And your stomach was churning because you had this awful thought, possibility that you would be chosen last. And then suddenly your name was called out, and then you felt this total relief because the boy next to you is the one that was always picked last, right? You needn't have worried. But chaps, think about how those friends were chosen, right? How were those chosen? How were they chosen for the football team? Was it was it friendship? Was it a little bribery? No. In the end, those boys were chosen because of their ability, because those captains wanted winners on their team. And men have never left that playground. The two captains are no longer gone to be replaced by bosses and colleagues and shareholders. And most men know that if they achieve, if they're successful, they're going to be wanted. They're going to be loved by their bosses and the people around them. And since the playground, we've been told that if we succeed, as I say, people will like us, will reward us. But a father's love has to be different. Children want to feel that their parents, their fathers, love them unconditionally, not for what they achieve. Now, this unconditional love is different from what they experience in the world at large. And it doesn't mean having low expectations of your children. As a head teacher, I had very high expectations of the children in my school. All round, academically, morally, spiritually, everything. No, we can have high expectations, but we love them unconditionally. That when they've tried their best, then their best is always going to be good enough. Yeah. And I've learned this lesson the hard way. I remember my daughter coming home. My oldest daughter is getting married in a few months' time, coming home from school, and she came in yelling, "Dad, I got 90% for my RE mock exam." And perhaps because I was feeling a little bit tired or it'd been a long day, I said, "Well, what happened to the other 10%? And what did the rest of the class get?" This is how dads, sometimes think. I'm not proud of that memory. And my daughter Catherine has her whole life in front of her, filled with those who are going to love her and want her for how she succeeds. But I want her to know that my love for her is not based on success, but on the fact that I am her father. Unfortunately, there have been many moments since that time. I mean, she was 15, now she's 25, 26. And there have been many moments since those days when I've been able to convey this message. So I've always encouraged dads, tell your children as often as is possible or is reasonable, that you love your children. Very easy to say "I love you" to a 5-year-old little boy or little girl who's there on the sofa and you're hugging them and so on. But much harder to tell a 15-year-old boy, big, stubble, a bit, peering, walking around with this kind of heavy look. But even that 15-year-old boy needs to be told by his father that he's loved. Really, he's loved. And at least do that once a week. Right? So just to give you a little bit, once a week, each of your children, especially the older ones, need to be told that they're loved. It's very easy with the younger ones. And show them lots of physical affection. Yeah, lots of physical affection. I used to love hugging my teenagers in public in front of their friends, and they would squirm and whatever, but they got used to it. And deep down, they knew that they were loved and that they felt secure. So don't worry about what other people think. Show your kids physical affection and be curious about them. Ask them lots of questions. You're driving down to the shops. Ask questions about what things at school, what they like, what they don't like. Find out about them. Really show an interest. Listen, and ask lots of questions. And so, next slide, please. So Effie, you'll give me the 10-minute warning, is that right? Okay, so I'll carry on for now, but you'll give me the 10-minute warning. Thank you. And fathers need to prepare children for adult life, right? They need to prepare them for adult life. This is another important role that we have, because as I said before, fathers are often the gateway to the external world for both boys and girls. Right? In the primary school years, it's all about mum. Mum is the one who's kind of establishing the moral code, really. But as children grow up, and approach their teenage years, they begin to venture into the external world. It's often through the father figure that they engage with that external world. So if the father is the kind of chap who is, gives a firm handshake, the kind of chap who looks at people in the eyes and is honorable and does things in an honorable way, then that's how they want to engage with the external world as well. I mean, just to answer one little question that's popped up, should we be, how regularly should we be meeting with, having those discussions with our children? Yes, once a week with each child. I mean, just to say that, in my case with 7 children, we allocated a day to each one. Monday was John, Tuesday was James, Wednesday was Catherine, and they would lead prayers. They would lead family prayers on their day. They would also lead the conversation at meal times on their day. And that day was the day that I knew that it was John's turn on a Monday for me to have that conversation with him. And, we're talking here maybe 5-10 minutes. It doesn't have to be long. Sometimes it was longer, but it was just to say, look, you and I are going to go out for a walk. This is your day. Monday's your day. And you and I are going to go out for a walk. And sometimes I would take him out for a drink or whatever. And this was the opportunity to have that conversation, really. So dads welcome. They welcome. Dads are the ones who are the gateway to the external world, but they also offer a kind of protection. Sorry, I've kind of moved my slide. We're on this slide here. Sorry, yeah, that's right. Apologies. So as I say, have this engagement with them. Have this engagement with them. And and what I'm talking about here is not just kind of arranging tea parties with your daughters or playing football with your sons in the park. These things are valuable, but I'm talking about other activities too. Take them to work, show them your workplace, let them see your colleagues, let them see your professional life, really, and how your world is outside. Gently guide them beyond the realm of childhood and introduce them to kind of professional life. I mean, my dad, every now and then, he was a waiter, right? So this was a service that wasn't necessarily high flying or anything like that. So he was a waiter all his life. But he would take me to the restaurant where he worked, and he would allow me sometimes to sit there, and I would do my homework. And occasionally he would allow me to help out, maybe towards the end of the evening, helping out, maybe just bringing a few plates or collecting them or whatever it might be. And I grew accustomed to kind of being around, the restaurant where my dad worked, and what I learned were many of the virtues, many of the professional virtues, because I could see how my father was engaging with customers. I could see how even when customers were sometimes quite demanding, he would keep his cool, and he was able to show those professional virtues. Really, this is what a father can do. He can teach those virtues. Okay, next slide, please. The father as protector. The father as protector. This is another 10 minutes to go. Thank you very much, Effie. The father as protector. How important this is. As I said in the past, we were the physical protectors of our children. Now our job is mainly that of moral protection, really. Unconditional love, the idea of unconditional love goes hand in hand with being a protector, really. And if our children grow up in an environment where they feel safe and protected, they're going to develop into secure, well-rounded people who one day are going to have great marriages, really. And dads have a particular role, as I say, in this idea of protection. And I want to give you an example. And by the way, I've asked my daughter's permission to give you this example. But when she was 16, let's say she's getting married in a few years' time. When she was 16, she came up to me in the garden just before she was taking her public examinations and asked me how I would feel if there was a boy in her life, and because somebody, if there was a boy who had taken an interest in her. And I said, tell me more. And she told me that apparently this interest had a name, and he was called Stephen. So anyway, I switched off my lawnmower and asked my daughter to sit down at the garden table. And to be honest, I wasn't happy, not because she was 16 and she was close to her public examinations, and I didn't want any distractions for her. And also, I was a little bit annoyed because she hadn't mentioned Stephen before. And I could feel one of my lectures coming on. Right? So one of my head teacher lectures coming on. But then I remembered a really good piece of advice that I had been given, which I share with you today. And make sure that when you speak to your teenagers, it's not in the area of angry correction. If you want to go deep and you want to really make that point, it can't be, those moments will happen, we're all human. But if you want to really, get across something really deep, then it cannot be in the spirit of angry correction. That a good heart, a good heart-to-heart talk is better than 5 or 6 reprimands, really. So what I did is I sat her across the garden table and I looked at her in the eyes. Another good piece of advice. Looking, especially when you're dealing with your daughters, look at them in the eyes. Men are not very good at looking each other in the eyes. It's only when they're, kind of involved in a rugby match or some kind of conflict that they look at each other in the eyes. But they tend to kind of stand at right angles. But when you're talking to your daughters, you're talking to your children, try and engage them eye to eye, really. Anyway, I sat opposite my daughter and I looked her in the eyes. And with a strong sense of fatherly protection, I told her that it was wonderful to see her turning into this fine, pretty young woman, and it was understandable as she got older that boys were going to start to take an interest in her. However, I also told her that every single young man who entered her life had to meet my approval first. And so I asked her that she should bring Stephen home so that I could meet him and so that I could tell her what I thought of him. And she rolled her eyes and gave a little bit of a smile and so on. But then eventually, she understood and she kind of brought him along. But the conversation then, moved on to modesty, a subject that I'd raised several times with her growing up. And I think it's important that we have that discussion with our daughters as well as our sons. And I reminded her how important it was to dress modestly, really, and to follow her mother's example, really, in this area, that when she dressed modestly, she was attracting men's eyes to her face, and especially to her eyes, really, because the eyes are the windows to the soul. I told her that I'd fallen in love with her mother, with my wife, through her eyes, right, all those years ago, and I wanted her future husband to do the same with her. I wanted her future husband to recognize her feminine beauty from within. And in this way, I could be sure that any future spouse would be affectionate with her and would want to respect her and would want to protect her, really. And I told her that I reminded her that if she didn't dress modestly, that a man's attention would be in every place other than her face, really. And as a man, I was well qualified to tell her this, really, because I knew how other men thought. So, these are the sorts of conversations that we cannot kind of shirk away from, really. And anyway, the message to my daughter in the garden that day many years ago was simple. If somebody is going to take my place as your protector, then he needs to fall in love with you. And he needs to fall in love with your eyes in the first instance, which are those are the eyes are the windows to the soul. And he also needs to meet my approval. The conversation finished with a "come on, Dad," and rolling of the eyes and all the rest of it, but her smile summed it all up. She felt safe and protected, and as a consequence, I think she felt stronger in herself. Anyway, a week later, we're running out of time. Stephen appeared at the house. And, people talk a lot about women's intuition, but men have intuition too, really. And this boy was a decent enough chap, but, after dealing with him for a while and so on and so forth, I knew this was not the right chap wasn't the right person for Catherine, really. And so after a few episodes, so I won't go into all the details, I eventually sat Catherine down. And I said to her that she let Stephen go, really. And you know, at first she cried, and you know, there was all the kind of the emotion and so on and so forth. But she understood, because deep down, I remember on one occasion she said to me, you know, why can't Stephen be like my brothers? In some of the you know, the engagements that and discussions that we'd had, and so on, because she knew deep down this wasn't the right person for her. Anyway, eventually, you know, after leaving Steve and so on, she was ready to go on to university and so on. I remember she came up to me just the day before going on to university and said, you know, Dad, I'm so glad you kind of guided me away from Stephen, because now I'm going on to university. So many of my friends have boyfriends and all sorts of problems and so on, but I'm going free. I'm going with a free heart and you know, out into the world, ready for all the adventure and so on. So we have a real responsibility when it comes to kind of, you know, acting as protectors of our children morally. Yeah. Okay, we're nearly there. One couple more slides and that's it, really. Loving your spouse. Sorry, next slide, please. Thank you. Loving your spouse. You know, great marriages are possible when a husband devotes himself first and foremost to his wife, you know, and placing his kids a close second. Right, I'm sorry if this offends any children listening, but mum comes first in the eyes of a father. Right? You know, I once heard of a family growing up in America, in Minnesota, where there were 12 children, and how one of the children remembered a small incident all her life. You know, all the children were in the living room, around the stove, because it was a very cold day, trying to keep warm, and the mother was missing, right, from this living room. Anyway, the father comes in from work and he comes to the doorway, and he was a silent German American type, you know, a man of very few words. And he started looking over the crowds of children, and then said, "Where is everybody? Where is everybody?" And they all looked at each other, puzzled, you know, and they realized then that the only person missing in that living room was their mother. Yeah. And that's how they all came to know that in Dad's eyes, mum is everybody. You know, when he said, "Where is everybody?" he was talking about his wife, you know, the center of his life. You know, and anyway, deep down, you know, children recognize this. You know, they love to see affection between their parents. You know, when we kiss our wives, and men, I'm sure every single one of you listening does this. But as soon as you come in from work, you don't do anything else. You go straight to your wife and you give her a kiss. And if that's in front of the children, great. Right? If it's not in front of the children, doesn't matter. But that's the first thing that you do, because when our children see us kissing our wives in that way when we come in from work, and saying, "Look, this is my everybody," really, they see this love, affection, and in turn, you know, when they see us, you know, kissing our wives, they know deep down that we love each other, and that somehow they are a fruit of that love, right? That they are a fruit of their love, that they are there because mum and dad love each other, really. And that's so deep in terms of their identity and who they are. You know, we need to give them that strong sense of belonging, really. So while I spend a fair amount of my time urging parents to spend time with their children, as I've done, you know, today, nevertheless, the greatest thing you can do is to, for your children, is to love each other, really. Obviously, that's a different talk, but this means spending time with one another. You need to make time for each other. You know, if you can't get out once a week, then aim to get out once a month, really, to talk about your relationship, the love, you know, recapture, rekindle, have that dating mindset. If you can't do it once a week, you do it once a month. If you can't do it once a month, you know, be creative. After the kids are in bed, you know, create a date night, and make it special. Okay, last slide, and now we can wrap up, and that hopefully, you know, timing is not too bad. You know, let me conclude, really, by saying that in our unconstrained age, yeah, in our unconstrained age, the tradition of fatherhood is fast becoming, at best, a quaint relic, right? And at worst, something synonymous with oppression, right? So, fatherhood is a negative thing, really. So many fathers are sadly no longer bound by the promises that they made at the altar, and even champion their kind of rights to follow their dreams and leave their children and wives behind, really, because I'm the one who counts. But all is not lost, and I believe that it's important to give dads and young men the message that sacrifice for others, pursuit of noble ideals and heroism is worth it. Not just for their happiness, they're going to be really happy if they lead this kind of life, but for the happiness and indeed the salvation of many others, really. And so my challenge to you, fathers, this afternoon is this: to be able to look in the mirror many years from now. I mean, I've lost a lot of my hair already. Maybe, some of you are more fortunate, really. But to look in the mirror many years from now as old men and to say that you have done your best to help your children become great people who lead happy lives centered on the love of God. And later, when you overhear your children and you see them handling tough situations as grown-ups, just like you want them to, or even better than you expected, when they do the right thing later on as adults without being told, when you see your own values, in them, in their marriages, and for keeps, these values are there for keeps, then alongside your wife, you can say, we've won, we've pulled it off. And wasn't that a wonderful, magnificent adventure? Because fatherhood is indeed a magnificent adventure. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chiro. That was awesome. That was so awesome.
Thank you.
Listening, I was like, do I really have to tell you it's 5 minutes more? Can I just my own hands and give you like an
Thank
extra
you.
minute? Thank you. That was amazing. We're grateful to have had you today. It's been awesome listening to that. I'm sure, do you have a book somewhere we don't know about yet?
No, I've got far too many things on to write the book at the moment.
Okay, so just in case, I'm signing up already. Thank you so much. And it's been 40 minutes of listening. So what we're going to do is take a stretch break so that everybody can get a drink, water before we go into the questions and then really dive deep into them. So everyone listening now, if you need a 5 minutes, but while we're gone, just to let you know, we have some really good music. We're going to play you Joy by Ayo Vincent, one of our songstress, that I called her earlier on today, from her album I Am Yours. And that's going to be playing. So while you're doing anything, take some time to relax. Music helps me relax. I hope it does for you too. Enjoy. And we'll be back in about 5 minutes. And then we'll go to questions and answers. So here we go. There.
Flow rock. This is for all the believers. That's right. If you born again and you're feeling it. Where your joy at? I got it right here. Hey, why you wanna testify? Bring it on there.
I don't know what I'd do without you, 'cause you set me free. Anything you want, you can ask of me. I wanna give you everything, 'cause you gave it all to me. You give me joy. Joy everlasting, peace like a river. Like a river it flows. You give me love. Your love is forever. Oh, yeah. And it will never go.
Hey, if you're a child of Zion, let me see your hands up. Let's go.
Ooh, I don't have to worry no more, 'cause you took away depression. See, your word was the cure. You healed me. Now I don't have to fear. Now I can stand to say these words anywhere. Joy everlasting. You give me peace. Yeah, 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 yeah. Like a river in peace like a river.
I bet you're filled with the spirit now.
Yes, I am.
That's all I'll ever need.
And it will never go.
For those of y'all who have no understanding of what be going on, it's a Holy Ghost party, y'all. Hey, put your hands up. Where your hope at? Where your joy at? Where your faith at? Hilly, Flow Rocker, AY. We be rapping the gospel, y'all.
Kábíyèsí o, mi ò tẹ̀lé ọ̀rọ̀ kan jígọ̀ ọba mímọ́ mímọ́ mímọ́. Pọ̀ kọjá kíkà mímọ́ 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 mímọ́. Àtẹ̀rẹ̀rẹ̀ kárí ayé. Ẹ̀fúùfù lọ́lẹ̀ tẹ́lẹ̀mílẹ̀ títí tí ó rán ọmọ níṣẹ́ fàyà tí ó. Kábí ọ̀hún máa sí o. Ọ̀rọ̀ ọmọ níṣẹ́ fàyà jíṣẹ́. Bàbá mi ọ̀rọ̀ kan jígọ̀ o. Ọba tó ga jùlọ. Bàbá mi ti gbàdọ̀ balẹ̀ kábíyèsí. Bó súnmọ́ bá ní mọ̀ gbèjé, bó jìnnà sí ọba níwọ̀n ẹgbẹ́ ẹ̀fọ́. Ọba tó ga jùlọ. Torí ọ̀rọ̀ ọba fi lọ́ba ń pa kábíyèsí ayérayé nínú ayérayé. My God is good. My God is kind. Your love sweet as sugar. Hey, the thing that make me smile.
Thank you so much. I think we've exhausted our 5 minutes. The music wouldn't let us realize it was 5 minutes and I was here dancing away, but it's good to be back. Hi, Chiro. Did you get some water or a drink?
Yes, thank you, Effie. Yeah, we're ready to go.
Okay. So I hope all my YouTubers from all over the world are still here and you are back ready to listen to the answers to some of the questions that we have. Thank you again, Chiro. That was really, really insightful for so many people, me included.
Thank you.
But yeah. So one of the first questions I have, I think you already answered that on Zoom, which was from Mr. Paul Arum or Arum, I'm not sure. It says have a deep conversation once with when you said that, and he asked if that was per child or all the children at the same time. I believe you did answer that already. Okay. So the next question we have is from Olu Abikoye of YouTube. And the question was, how can we support fathers who struggle with managing their emotions and affections, particularly those who, despite loving their children, do not assume leadership roles in their homes, instead creating environments of conflict and emotional outbursts? I'm not sure if you got all that, so I'm going to also copy it and put it in YouTube for you.
Yes.
So you can read it and get that as well. So I'm going to post it here for you right away. Okay.
Yes, thank you very much for the question. How can we support fathers who struggle with managing their emotions, really? And I think it's a really, really good question because cognitive awareness is really important here, because the way emotions work, and I cover some of this work in my coaching program with the teenagers, is that actions don't just come out of nowhere. So, a chap who, loses his temper, maybe at work or at home, that just hasn't just happened, right? Because normally that action, that outburst is preceded by a feeling, and often what is underlying the feeling are thoughts, right? Our thoughts. And what are some of the thoughts that give way to a certain kind of frustration, really? And I think there are lots of men who, so what I'm saying here really is that you've got to get the thoughts right. If you get the thoughts right, that will lead to kind of more settled feelings, and then those settled feelings will mean less outbursts and so on. So really, for me, it's about kind of working with the thoughts that are kind of fueling some of these outbursts or whatever it might be. And I think for that we need to understand the kind of things that men you know, what are the thoughts that they're having that are leading to these sorts of outbursts and so on. But I think many men today, you know, are kind of frustrated, really. Men don't deal with frustration much. I mean, you know, there's only kind of, unlike women who have a whole, well, let's put it this way, you know, men have three states. You know, they're either, you know, hungry, happy, or very, very annoyed. I mean, that's it. And they can move between these three states really quickly. So you can be really annoyed, you come home with a nice dinner, and then suddenly you're happy again, right? Women have a whole kind of just a rainbow of emotions, really. So chaps don't even go there to try and understand the range of emotions when it comes to women. But men, you know, when they get things build up and they frustrate them and so on. I mean, look, there's so much I could say about this, but one of the things I will say in answer to the question, just to leave time for other things, is this: that one of the reasons why men struggle with you know, so there are some thoughts that they struggle with and frustrations. Some of it is to do with, as I was saying before, you know, the sense of success. So if they're not succeeding, they're not achieving, they get themselves worked up and frustrated either in the workplace or at home if they feel like, you know, they have that kind of control. But rest is a really important area. I think men need to learn, and women, of course, men need to learn how to rest, really, to kind of switch off from this kind of achievement, success kind of culture, really, that is often fueling a lot of their thoughts. And learning how to switch off a little bit, and doing that, resting with their families, because in family life we can be loved for who we are, not necessarily for what we achieve. So the family is the one place where we can be with our family and learn to rest with them, you know, through those quiet things and you know, those quiet activities, recreation, whatever it might be. And then one last piece of advice, I think, for many men: just get rid of your smartphone. Really, I mean, you know, just go to the nearest drain and chuck the smartphone, and already that's going to take a lot of mental pressure off you, really, by just doing that one action. I mean, obviously, I know no one's going to do that, but really limit the amount of time you're spending on phones and these sorts of things, and that will help reshape your thoughts as well, yeah, positively.
I love that last part, chuck away the smartphone. And the second question will be, how will they survive, right? It's probably work food. That's what everybody tells you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Second question I have, or the third question actually, comes from the same Olu Abikoyi, and it says, how can fathers be encouraged to seek and accept help when they feel inadequate in their roles as the heads of their households? I've just sent it to you as well, so you can read it.
Yeah, that's, again, these are really, really good questions, because men, you know, so how can they be encouraged to seek and accept help? I mean, you know, some men find that really difficult to kind of, you know, open up in that way. And, you know, I think part of the problem, at least I'm talking about now, you know, at least the UK and you know, the kind of the environment in which I kind of live in, is that you know, friendship is something that men really struggle with, right? I mean, you know, women seem to have less of an issue with this, but men really struggle with friendship, really. And nowadays, most men, at least that I know, I think, you know, if you said to them, do you have a friend, a best friend, right? So somebody that you can talk to and so on, will say no, they don't really. You know, they've got acquaintances, people maybe at the gym or the club here, whatever, but not friends, right? So the art of friendship has been lost, really. And so the thing is, you know, what I would say is that if you at least recognize this, and you have friends who struggle to kind of, you know, open up and to talk and so on, well, you know, first and foremost, be a friend to them. And being a friend, you know, ultimate means, you know, kind of listening. It means, you know, showing that interest. It means, you know, that emotional connectivity, that engagement. You know, so if I'm going to be a friend with somebody, I might need to let my guard down a little bit as well, right, in order to kind of engage with them emotionally, and so on. But then I think, you know, we need, with our kids, it starts when you know, before they reach manhood, you know, with our sons, really helping them to develop good friendships and helping them to become good friends of their friends, you know, people who demonstrate these sorts of qualities. But we need to, you know, for men, we need to kind of we need to recapture this idea of friendship, really, which has been lost. Really, a lot of these guys are lonely guys, really. So there's no easy answer to that one, other than I would encourage you and each one of us here today, who may, the fact that we're here already, it means that we're open to a certain kind of outlook. That let's start today with one of our male friends. I mean, those chaps I'm talking to, and then just find. Because sometimes when they don't have many male abilities, really, emotional need, that because there maybe not be friends around, that we then look for that emotional need to be met by somebody other than our wives. Really, so we need to be on, I talked a lot about protection today, but we also need to protect our heart. Somebody, I mean, maybe it was my father who told me one day, never get into a car with a married woman, in terms of a lift home or anything like that. So and with those. I'm sorry, I'm worried if my Wi-Fi or my internet is playing up because there's freezing now. This was right. At least we've managed to get the talk done, because I'm always worried about this, really. So I don't know if you caught the broad strokes of my answer for the last one, but yeah.
I think we did catch
Okay,
it.
good.
So the next question I'm going to shoot off to you as well. It says, how can parents ensure their marital relationship remains the foundation of the family's stability and security, particularly in cultures of or environments where showing affection openly is uncommon?
Yeah, no, again, really good question. I do a bit of counselling for couples, even though I'm not a kind of qualified counsellor, but just being ahead for 25 years and all the work that I do, people come up to me and say, "Can you please, offer us some kind of support, really?" And what I found myself saying is that in the end, when it comes to this kind of marital relationship, and as this, the question kind of correctly states, that this is the stability foundation for the family, this relationship, that sometimes, there's a lot of gobbledygook, so people will talk about, communication strategies, and people talk about conflict, kind of awareness and all the rest of it. Some of these things are good, don't get me wrong, really. But when I talk to people, to couples, number one for me is the friendship between, and I'm sorry if I'm going back to the previous question, but is the friendship between this couple. We have to do everything we can to, if that friendship has been lost, maybe they had it when they were courting, when in the early years of their marriage, and then it's begun to drift apart, right? This kind of creeping separateness over time because of the pressures of family life and kids and all the rest of it, and they lose that friendship. So the foundation of that relationship is friendship. Everything has to be focused on that, and so obviously that friendship is a marital kind of, is rooted in marriage. So there's all that goes with it, really, the sexual embrace, the physical, kind of signs of affection, but all of that is one, is that friendship, that within the marriage relationship, really. And so, as I was saying before, even if you've been married, kind of 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years, keep that dating mindset fresh, really. So chaps, I sometimes say to chaps, look, when you were dating your wife, everything you did basically was all about, how can I win her over? Right? So you were using the aftershave very liberally in those days, making sure that you smelt good, that you spoke well, everything, because you wanted to win your wife over. The trouble is that we get married, and then 10 years later, we look at that aftershave bottle on the side of the bathroom cabinet, and we think, gosh, it's running low. If I use too much of it, I'm going to have to buy another one, right? And no, spend money on aftershave, ladies. Spend money on perfume, right? On makeup. These things are good things. Have that dating mindset. Keep the marriage fresh. really, and keep that friendship alive, really, because one day those kids are going to move on, aged 18. I mean, I have two of our children are married. Already I have a grandson on the way in September, another one getting married. Thank you. But now our kids are each other across the Sorry, I realize I froze. When I see you freezing, FA, I stop talking. But we need to be able to look at each other across the table. You need to be able to look at each other across the table 18 years from now when your children have gone, and you've got to say, this is the person who's the center of my life, right? And this is the person I want to enter into old age with, really. And that, from the moment you're married, it begins then all the way through your marriage, even when your kids are tiny and so on. We keep that marriage fresh. Yeah.
I love it. I think some people are trying to sabotage the Wi-Fi so we don't get all the wisdom and nuggets. It's not. We're taking it down. So the next question I have is from Rufus Samuel, and I think he says, "What can you say about child correction in light of biblical teaching?" I've passed that on to you now, so you can read.
What can you say about your child correction in light of biblical teaching? Well, I mean, the thing is, when I suppose, I mean, that's a tough question, that one. Wow. I mean, that's not an easy one. But what I would say, is that, what we're looking at when we look at the Bible, we're looking at all, obviously, the divine revelation that God is granting to us. Those, all the things that, everything we need to be able to lead a life of holiness, and to gain eternal life. That's what the whole of our Christian faith is about, right? It's gaining eternal life at the end of the day. So this is what we look at the Bible for. But we don't necessarily we also need to understand the Bible was written within a cultural context as well, right? And so it doesn't mean that everything that is culturally kind of given to us in the Bible we have to follow, right? In that sense, because it things are written. So I think this is important only for this reason, that when we're looking at things like discipline or the way we raise our children and so on and so forth, it's not that God is telling us, right, you've got to do it literally, if this is how, if it was, this is from the cultural thing, the cultural context. But clearly, when we look at the Bible, what does it tell us? What is God revealing to us about these things? Well, first of all, what I think the Bible tells us in lots of different ways is that we are the primary educators of our children, right? So God has given us this mission, this responsibility. Sorry, God has given us this grace to lead our families along this path to eternal salvation, and as just as God has had to correct His people across the along that divine path of salvation, so therefore we in our journeys as well as parents also need to correct our children. We need to inspire them. We need to love them. We need to all the things that I've been talking about today, protect them. So all of these things. So that correction is all part of everything, all part of our mission as primary educators to raise our children and to lead them to eternal life, really. So sorry, Efe, did you want me to stop? Sorry.
So I've got two other questions coming.
Okay, all right. Okay.
I think we'll wrap up.
Yes.
So the next question is, how can I encourage my daughter to open up to me, from Veronica on YouTube? So yes. I'm going to pass that on to you. I think you mentioned something like that before.
Yes. Well, I think, again, very good question. Thank you. Well, relationships. Remember I said to you, a key thing that we need that a father and a mother, of course, needs to always bear in mind is relationship, and it actually is to do with the previous question. So we more effectively correct our children when we have a relationship with them. Right? when we've established a loving relationship with them, then we correct them. We have all the authority, all the graces to be able to do that. And developing that relationship, especially with older ones, and I assume maybe the in this case the daughter is a little bit older, and so on and so forth. It requires effort. It requires intentionality, right? And it requires the earlier we can start in developing that relationship, the better. So sometimes I've said to fathers, you bring your wife home a bunch of flowers, right? Again, keeping that marital relationship alive. So chaps, flowers, lots of flowers. You bring your wife flowers, bring your 5-year-old daughter a little bunch of flowers as well at the same time, right? So you establish with her from an early age, so I'm giving you permission that the only other human, the only other woman you can date in your life other than your wife is your daughter, right? So that's the only other one. So in other words, you kind of, when she's 5 years of age, you bring her a bunch of flowers. You show that love, that affection, and so on. Then yes, when you have to correct her, you have to correct her. But at least when you're correcting her, or you're correcting any of your children, really, you're doing that within that loving relationship, that unconditional love, so that the child knows, well, I know that I need that correction. Deep down they know, but it's been not because you are trying to control them. I keep saying to parents, your goal in life is not to control your kids, right? And to somehow, I've got to have control. No, your goal is to lead them to heaven, right? Is to lead them to eternal life. And therefore, we need to kind of establish, and within that environment, if we can start when our children are younger, but if they're older, it's never too late, right? So what I would advise you to do is, really surprise your daughter one day. So you phone her up.
Okay, we're just going to give it a little minute, and hopefully Chiro will be back to answer the rest of the question. I think it's a
Sorry, yeah, I know. I can see you freezing, Fa. When you freeze, I stop. So don't worry, I haven't carried on talking. But so you phone your daughter up, 13 years of age. You phone her from work and you say, sweetheart, you're this evening, I've spoken to your mum, got your mum, but you and I are going out for a milkshake, right? We're going out for a milkshake and we're going to spend some time together, right? But you phone her from work, right? You don't just walk in and it's like a side, kind of decision or whatever. No. You've shown intentionality. You've thought ahead. And you've shown her that you value that time that you're going to spend together with her, and she will open up over time. Don't expect everything in 5 minutes, but if you have that mindset, because mindset is everything. I think we've got so many wellness coaches and people with huge amount of experience, and they'll say better than I can the importance of a mindset. Really, if you've got that mindset, then it will happen.
Thank you so much, Chiro. And the last question I'm going to shoot over to you is from Annie from YouTube, and she's asking, what is your advice to women raising children by themselves and they have no male close friends to fill the void of a father?
Yes, again, I mean, these are all outstanding questions, really. And I think any single, now obviously the question is in relation to a single mum, really. So, and this is true of single mums and single dads, that in the end, as we all know, they need to be a bit of both. So they need to bring that little bit of motherhood and fatherhood in that situation, really. And I mean, like in the case of fathers, single dads, I've often said to them, look, maybe what you'll find a little bit more difficult is the affectionate side of things, right? Because that's something that the mother maybe would have bring. Well, become more affectionate. So the thing is, you need to kind of, show that affectionate side a little bit more, compensate for that because the mother isn't around. And similarly, we may need to compensate a little bit on some of those perspectives that dad or a male figure might bring in. So it might well be in things like I was saying before. All the things that I've talked about, that protection, that filtering of things that are coming into the home, that engagement with the external world, all the things that I've been talking about. Well, that's maybe that's something the single mum will have to, maybe might be a little bit out of her comfort zone, as it is for the chap to become a bit more affectionate if he's on his own. But we can do it. God will give us the graces in that situation to make those compensations. Really, that's the first thing. And then secondly, I would say that having said all of that, it's important for the children to have some male role models within their lives, and if that isn't the father, because he's not there for whatever reason, and so on, well, then we look for those uncles and those grandparents, the grandfathers, the football coach, whatever. I mean, so in other words, we kind of ensure that there are those male role models in their lives in some way. But as a mum, it just means kind of assuming other perspectives, but you can do it. 100%. You can do it, because God will give you the grace to do it. And within that environment, there's absolutely no reason, none at all, why that child will not grow up to be a well-rounded, competent young man or woman, who's going to one day lead their lives by all the values and that you hold dear, really. But it does, again, requires intentionality. It requires an effort. It requires a heroic effort. I think single parents in that situation, in my eyes, because in many cases, through no fault of their own, these are real heroes, right? These are real heroes, right? And they need all our respect, our love, our support, to kind of do everything we can to help those parents. Because in the end, look, just to finish off with this idea, our children are not raised just on their own in a home, even with mum and dad. It takes a village to raise a young man or a young woman. It takes a village, and so we need to kind of foster that village community aspect as well, right? So we need to see who are the people around me that need that extra support, that need that little bit of village life, community, and let me do my bit as well, really, because that's how people grow up to be great people.
Thank you so much, Chiro.
You're
Thank you.
Very welcome.
Can all the beautiful people on here give a big emoji for Mr. Chiro Kandia? If you're on YouTube, throw in an emoji or a chat or something in the box, and let's know how we feel about all this love he's shared today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Chiro. It's been awesome. It's been so
likewise,
awesome.
And it's a pleasure being with you this afternoon. And just to say, look, I'll be praying for each and every one of you, and holding you very much in my prayers over the next 6 weeks. I think it's going to be a really important time for you, and I pray so many good things for each and every one of you. Really, yeah.
Thank you so much. I think our convener has something to say. I'm not sure if she had a question.
Yes, I do. I do. Thank you so much, Chiro.
You're very welcome.
I was so engrossed taking notes and taking comments. I mean, yes, I'm a parenting coach, but when you hear solid, nuggets, it's amazing. I really do appreciate your time and your candor. I love the thoroughness with which you address the questions. Guys, if you didn't send in your questions, you've missed quite a lot. For those who will be watching the replays, I think your best bet is just join our parenting community, and let's see if we can try to do some justice to this. Thank you, Chiro. We really do appreciate. To the rest,
thank you.
Yeah, thank you. To the community watching, thank you very much. If you still feel like joining the VIP group so you can have an additional time with Chiro, please do so now, because Chiro will only be available in the VIP chat for today because he's a very busy man. He doesn't have he doesn't have a book, but he has so many parents that he visits physically. He's more of the physical, relationship kind of person. Chiro, it would be good if you could send us your handles, your links for your podcast as well. I know you do some podcasts and radio shows, so it will be good to have that for our community so that we can have more support for our men. We hope to do more and more specifically for our men, even though we're going to try to focus on parents. And the world today, when you say parents, most people assume, oh, it's the mom. But the truth of the matter is, like you said, the men are the true heroes who are self-sacrificing. And I love something you said. Your dad said that he's very hard on himself, but very forgiving to everyone else. That is so amazing. And I think that's the summary of who a father is. You take on the burdens on your shoulders, and you just do it with grace and with with seemingly effortless ease.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Drew.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Okay. So it has been a really, really awesome time together. I'm thankful that we have replays we can share, even though it's just for 2 weeks. At the beginning, we shared some links telling you where you can join if you haven't, or where you can share with your friends. The VIP chat room is here. For those who were on here today, it was good having you. Thank you for the first line coming in, and giving us the questions one-on-one. For everyone who's joined in on YouTube from Portugal, Canada, Lagos, London, from the US, whatever time it is, you've made time to be here. It's been, I'm sure definitely there's something you've taken home with you today, something you can share. And I'm already excited. This is just week 1. We're waiting for what's going to come next week. Next week, we're going to have another brilliant speaker. She's going to be sharing on the same topic, but the part 2 from a mother's love. So it's been awesome. If there are any other questions you have, don't forget, we've got our community on WhatsApp. You can join in. The VIP community is a new one this year, and it's moving really fast. You can also join in on that one and get more perks. From all of us at you can connect with the speaker at Chirokandia at proparent.uk. That's his email he's given us. And then
we have the next slide so that we also have the links, please. Yeah.
There you go. So if you haven't registered, and for people who've missed out this week, unfortunately, they can still register by using the link on top. We've got the VIP below. Join our community and our awesome playlist. It got me dancing today. I don't know how I've missed out on so much, but the playlist is awesome. People always wonder where the music comes from. You've got it here this time. Download, listen, so that when it's time to go for your stretch breaks, you can dance already with the music in your head. And as we've mentioned, the replay will be available till the 10th of May. That's 2 weeks. So you have 2 weeks to go on, apart from if you're on the VIP. But for those of us who missed it and want to catch up, you've got the replay. And if you need anything else, like we said, just throw a message into the community. We'll get back to you as soon as it's possible. We're here for you, so anytime. So thank you to everyone. It's me again, Efeogunwole, saying a very big thank you for joining in, for spending your time. And I pray that God gives you the answers to everything that you've come here for. Have a wonderful rest of the evening and a very blessed week ahead.
Bye, everyone. Hope to see you guys this time next week, when we will have our next awesome speaker, Brenda Unwaroro. Bye.
La 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 la. Where would I be without your love? Where would I be without your grace? You lifted me from the miry clay. You set my feet on the rock to stand. You are faithful, Jesus. You are wonderful to me. God, when not they sleep, oh, you know they sleep. la la la. Who am I without your love? Who am I without your grace? You took my name and gave me yours. Your mercies are ever new, Lord. You are faithful, Jesus. You are wonderful to me. You are beautiful, Jesus. You are wonderful to me. Idiakube, chukwobimo, you too they bless me. Narekele, God when not they sleep, oh, you know they slumber. Your love not they fail me. Narotito, Idiakube, chukwobimo, you too they bless me. Narekele, my God, all they sleep, in all they slumber, in love not never, narotito. King of the nations, we bow before you. We lift up the name of Jesus, God of all the earth, creator of the heavens, creator of the earth. The whole earth is filled with your glory. You too bless me, Narekele.